If you use rare candies in your Nuzlocke, you're cheating.
What?
Now I know you may be wondering, TheWheelz, why did you start the video with such a bold statement? Well, in the last few days, the Pokemon community has been debating if adding rare candies into your Nuzlocke is cheating. Now, as someone who has done many Nuzlockes throughout the past couple of years, I wanted to give you my thoughts on this and just talk about it, because in general, I personally don't feel it's such a hot topic, but it really has become a hot topic. Now, before we get into the subject at hand, let's talk about at least what a Nuzlocke is. It basically created a way to add difficulty to the very Pokemon games that we love to play now. At the most basic level of a Nuzlocke, it only has two rules. The first rule is limiting the amount of encounters you can get by only allowing you to get one encounter for each area or route that you run into. Also, if that encounter either flees or run away, you're out of luck, as you cannot encounter another Pokemon in that area. And then secondly, if a Pokemon faints, that Pokemon is no longer usable for the rest of the game. That's basically it. And as time went by, they added more rules like mandatory names, so that you have to name the Pokemon that you encounter, so it feels like you have a bond with this Pokemon, and if it faints, it sucks, so you play more safe with it. And full wipe, meaning if you wipe in a battle, you have to restart the entire run. The Nuzlocke in general has gone through many changes. Now there's hardcore Nuzlocke, cage locks, wonder lock. In general, a Nuzlocke is basically a way to play the Pokemon, adding difficulty and making it more enjoyable to maybe some people that didn't find it enjoyable before. But now that we know what a Nuzlocke is, let's get to the topic at hand, and that is, if you add rare candies into your Nuzlocke, it makes you a cheater. Now you may be wondering, how did this all started? Well, it started with a particular creator who I'm not gonna say because I don't want to send any ill will towards them, even though I personally don't agree with anything they say. But he made a video that said one of the best Nuzlockers in the world, Pokemon Challenges, cheats in his Nuzlockes, and every Nuzlocker cheats in their Nuzlockes for adding rare candies into their Nuzlocke instead of grinding. Now, we just went over what a Nuzlocking is, right? And I'm gonna take a quote of what he said and then compare it to what we just said about what is a Nuzlocke.
Community was about grinding, was about the difficulty.
He said a Nuzlocke was made for grinding and difficulty. Now we can already agree that the Nuzlocke was made for some sort of difficulty to Pokemon. Obviously, if you just play a Pokemon game normally, you could catch 6 random Pokemon, grind to level 100, and just take on the entire game, and there's just nothing that's gonna stop you, right? It just makes it for boring content. So in essence, I can agree with him that adding difficulty is the point of a Nuzlocke. But where this guy lost his marbles was the grinding part. I'm not gonna sit here and say that everyone doesn't like grinding, but I mean, I am sure I'm gonna find a great lot of you that hate the aspect of sitting hours upon hours taking on Pokemon for the minuscule amount of freaking experience you could get. Like we just said, that there's nothing stopping you from grinding to level 100 and take on the game. So at the end of the day, the Nuzlocke, which is, we just said the basic rules is that you have to catch one Pokemon for each route. If it faints, it's gone. And obviously, if you add, the additional rules, if you wipe, you have to restart, and you have to name. Just if you play a Nuzlocke at the most minimal rule set, sure, nothing's stopping you from grinding, but then it takes away the difficulty, because you could just grind to level 100, I said, and beat the game. Don't have to worry about Pokemon fainting. Don't have to worry about wiping, because you're just grinding and grinding and grinding, which in the end isn't really that hard. So it just doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense. Now, the counter argument to that is that the same thing can be said, just bringing in rare candies, making your Pokemon to level 100, and that takes away the difficulty as well. And I will say, if you're playing a Nuzlocke at the most minimal set ever, you're normally new to Nuzlocking. I generally don't see a lot of people that have never Nuzlocked before say, yeah, I'm gonna go on a hardcore Nuzlocke. I'm gonna restrict myself so hard that I'm gonna have fun. Cause I can tell you, when I first started Nuzlocking, I didn't start with these hard rules. I started with the bare minimum, and I feel like, yes, if you're gonna do a bare minimum Nuzlocke, that you have no restrictions, you're allowed to heal in battle, you're allowed to over level your Pokemon, so you're not required to stop your Pokemon from leveling up at a specific, point in the game. Yes, I think banning Rare Candies is totally acceptable, and using Rare Candies at just a normal bare minimum Nuzlocke is whack, right? I could agree with that, but that is only at the lower end of Nuzlockes. Like, if you're starting to get into the much harder Nuzlockes, you're talking about hardcore Nuzlockes, where you're restricting yourself that you cannot use your bag to heal within battle, that at every certain points in the game, you're capping your Pokemon at that specific level, and if they go over, you cannot use that Pokemon. There even is people restricted to the point they can only use one Pokemon or one typing of that Pokemon, and they can't use any other typing. Like, let's say if you freaking restrict yourself to dragon types are, or at least most dragon types are pseudo legendary Pokemon. So you're looking at the Pokemon having a higher or a lower experience yield than, let's say, the starter Pokemon, who always had like the mid to high experience yield. If you don't know what that is, it's basically there are Pokemon, like, depending on the Pokemon, you get experience quick, or you level up quicker than it is for a Pokemon, let's say a legendary, pseudo legendaries, who take more experience to level up. So if you're restricting yourself to that point, I'm just gonna say it, Rare Candies are totally fine if you're staying within your level thing, right? Especially if you're like a content creator who, goes on live stream, and you're like not like one of those content creators that have like 16 hours a day of just streaming. You can only play for 3 to 4 hours, and you really want to play this Nuzlocke, but you're spending most of the times in the grass beating Pokemon after Pokemon. It's not fun. We're now at a point that if you play like the brand new ROM hacks, he brought this up as well. People were saying like that we bring in Rare Candies now that ROM hacks are getting more difficult, and they're adding restrictions to the game itself, so you don't even have to make the rules because the ROM hack is adding the restrictions itself. Well, even the game, the ROM hacks themselves know how difficult these challenges are, that they even have ways of giving you codes to add in the Rare Candies instead of using a outside device or outside hack to give you candies. Great example I can give you is Radical Red. Radical Red, at first, the grinding was atrocious. It was a fun game, but the grinding was atrocious. And now, if you play the latest Radical Red update, now you use a code that gives you Rare Candies. There's a code that it gives you battle items. There's a code that allows you to see your opponent's team, because it's a game that's meant to be very difficult, and some people want to enjoy the game while also not having that difficulty, so they add that. But it's your choice, and I think that helps me go to my second and final point, is that at the end of the day, the Nuzlocke that you do is up to what you want to do. The rules, like I said earlier, the rules for Nuzlocke have changed as time went on. We have gotten so many different Nuzlockes. I want to read something that I read when I first started Nuzlocking, and then I also heard it from, I'm going to say this name again because I enjoy watching them, Pokemon Challenges. The reason why I started enjoying Pokemon Nuzlockes more is because of what he said, and I'll say that after I read this, because it will make much more sense. The Nuzlocke Challenge, commonly shortened to just Nuzlocke, It's a set of rules intended to create a higher level of difficulty while playing the Pokemon games. Many challengers feel the rules also serve the purpose of encouraging the use of Pokemon the player would not normally choose and promoting closer bonds with players' Pokemon. Before I read this last sentence, this is where I feel like it's the most important one. People will disregard this part and tell you that you have to play by those rule sets, and that if you're not playing by the rule sets, you're wrong. This sentence alone is basically trying to prove my point that I'm going to be making here in a second. The rules are not an in-game function, but are self-imposed on the part of the player and thus subject to variation. So what does that mean? And I said this right before I read this. I enjoy Pokemon challenges. He said, why should you care of what people think on how you're playing what you feel is fun compared to what they feel is fun? Maybe for you, fun is being hard batshit crazy, and that each gym you're gonna go into that fucking gym 1500 levels just to show how fucking 5-head or Giga Chad you are. And I think people forget at the end of the day, the Nuzlocke should be a way where you're challenging yourself but also having fun. And I think that people forget about that, and people want to tell you how it should be done, and that if you're doing it wrong, you're cheating, and it's just so stupid. Like, they'll never let people tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And before I go, I want to add one more quote that he said. That he says, adding rare candies and cheating takes away the accomplishment of the Nuzlocke. And let me tell you that is so wrong, because as I said, you know, I've been enjoying Nuzlockes for a while now, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm like the most Giga Chad, big brain, best in the world Nuzlocker. Hell no, I'm the opposite. I'm terrible at Nuzlockes. In fact, I'm gonna put it up right now. I've literally been playing Radical Red, and I still haven't beaten the game. I'm sure there are people that run circles around me and restrict themselves even harder and beat the game. I haven't beat the game, and I add rare candies through the code that the game gives you, so that, you know, I'm not spending time grinding and I'm getting to the level cap to do that gym. And the furthest I've gotten is Blaine. We're there right now, and every time I get there, I feel like an accomplishment. I feel like, whoa, I suck and I'm making it this far. In fact, I'm gonna feel so good and feel like, man, I'm actually getting better at this if I beat him. But yeah, so I don't think adding rare candies take away your accomplishments. I think that's so stupid. You know, at the end of the day, you know, if you're doing it your way, and it's hard enough that you are still struggling, but you're still having fun. When you finally beat it, you're gonna feel accomplished no matter what. And it's, you know, if people like watching you, if you're like a smaller YouTuber and people like watching you and they're like, let's go, that's all you need. That's all you need. It's all you need. Don't put yourself through the struggle of freaking grinding for hours if you could just do it with rare candies. I think it's, for me, it is the worst take in Pokemon. There are hotter takes. It's just so stupid. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's just so stupid that we're fighting for this. That this is what, you know. And that's the Pokemon community in a whole, though. You know what? What can I say? But that's it. I didn't want to make this video long. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. You made it this far. Are you team rare candies, or are you team grind it out? And yeah, I know I haven't posted a lot of videos, mainly shorts. I do this right now as a hobby, trying to make videos for you guys at the same time and learning. I'm literally learning to edit and have fun with this. So yeah, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, I guess. Rolling out. Peace.